Good evening. Welcome to Spectrum News at 9. I am Uyai Anyekan, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari, CBN Governor Emefiele meets in presidential villa amid naira scarcity. Federal government opposes creation of new agencies. Plus, China accuses US of sending balloons into its airspace more than 10 times. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Thanks for joining us. First in the news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari has met with the governor of the Central Bank of time since the cash crunch started in the country. The CBN governor, however, did not speak to journalists as he left the presidential villa. Since February 10, Nigerians have been hit by naira scarcity due to the swap of the currency. CBN had redesigned the 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1000 naira notes, which commenced in December 2022. In another development, President Muhammadu Buhari has reported to ensure its effective takeoff. The president, at the inaugural meeting of the council in Abuja, okayed the operationalization of the office space to provide a conducive working environment for the council and development of open market carbon trading framework and infrastructure. Buhari also approved that the Energy Transition Plan and office be subsumed into the NCCC to ensure continuity and sustainability of the initiative in accordance with the Climate Change Act 2021. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned a wide assortment of operational assets acquired to strategically improve the capabilities of the police, particularly in 127 operational vehicles such as Toyota Hilux pickup vans, Zahab Classic pickup vans, Meccano Rich 6 pickup vans, anti-riot water cannons, armored personnel carriers, Toyota Land Cruiser Prado jeeps, Toyota Coaster buses, Toyota Hiace ambulances, Meccano trucks, and crowd control barrier vehicles. Control agents such as tear gas, tasers, stun guns, pepper sprays, bulletproof vests, helmets, and other personal protective equipment procured by the police were commissioned by the president. Away from that, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) says the federal government has projected to spend 82% of its revenue on in 2023. According to the IMF, external debt will rise to $121.6 billion, with external reserves climbing to $37.5 billion. The agency disclosed this in a table of projections in its IMF Executive Board conclusion for 2022 Article 5 consultation with Nigeria summary. The projections showed an improvement in the share of the government's revenue that was being used as interest payment, with interest payments falling from 96.3% in 2022 to 82% in 2023. National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies has been met with disapproval from the federal government. This was as the federal government frowned upon the duplication of the dialogue on the National Monitoring and Evaluation Policy and Women's Economic Empowerment at the State House, Abuja. Governors are not ready to end open defecation in their domains despite efforts by the federal government to halt the menace. Adamu, who spoke in Abuja at the second national retreat for states on the Clean Nigeria Use the Toilet campaign, said aside from Jigawa State that no other state in Nigeria had attained the open defecation-free status. He added that Katsina State, Nigeria Governors Forum (NGF), has urged its members to support the legal battle on the policy against the federal government at the Apex Court. In a communique issued after its meeting in Abuja, the NGF directed Attorneys General of the 36 states to review the suit at the Supreme Court with a view to consolidating the legal reliefs pursued by states. The governor said that the country is at risk of recession, which will be the result of CBN's Naira exchange policy. Moving now to judiciary, where Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed the request by the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to disqualify the incumbent Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege from participating in the March 11, 2023 governorship election in Delta State. A suit instituted by the PDP for the disqualification request was thrown out by the court due to lack of diligent prosecution of the suit. Recall that PDP had dragged the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), All Progressives Congress (APC), and Omoagege before the court, praying for an order to quash the bid by the Deputy Senate President and his party from standing for the election on allegations of breach of Electoral Act 2022. In a separate development, the management of the Lagos State University (LASU) has released a tentative timetable for its second semester examination as approved by its Senate today. According to a release published on the institution's official Twitter handle at LASU Official, the second semester examinations will commence from Monday the 13th, Thursday 23rd February 2023. The examination will take break from Friday 24th Monday to 27th February 2023. According to reports, students will be back on campus from Tuesday the 28th of February through Thursday the 9th of March to continue the exams, adding that they will observe a break again from Friday the 10th through Monday the 13th of March and be back on campus on Tuesday the 14th until concluded. This is in contrast to the earlier directive issued by the National Universities Commission (NUC), asking that institutions should shut down operations from the 22nd of February to the 14th of March 2023. In the meantime, the Lagos State Ministry of Education has ordered the temporary a release signed by the State Commissioner for Education Folashade Adefisayo said the closure was ordered pending the outcome of a full investigation into the unfortunate incident. Meanwhile, Adefisayo, on behalf of the State Ministry of Education, commiserated with the parents of Whitney and prayed for the repose of her soul. To electoral matters now, where the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), Professor Mahmood Yakubu, today met with the United States Assistant Secretary of State for Bureau of Africa hours after Yakubu met with leaders of political parties ahead of the general elections. She also expressed her conviction that the elections would be peacefully conducted and democracy protected, as the country has demonstrated since 1999. Fee also noted that the U.S. does not have a preferred candidate, but that it supports the electoral process. In his remarks, the INEC chairman said the commission is interested in consolidating the gains of democracy. The chairman reassured the delegation that the Commission is on the right path to conducting the election as scheduled, as 12 out of all 14 pre-election activities in the schedule have been implemented. In a related development, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has said that 240 polling units across the country do not have any registered voters, which will impede conduct of the general election in those locations. The INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu made the disclosure after a meeting with political parties held in Abuja. Yakubu recalled that the Commission had made efforts to redistribute voters to polling units in order to avoid the congestion that made voting cumbersome in many of them nationwide. According to him, it requires the redistribution of voters to new polling units in proximate locations. In politics, the Labour Party (LP) in the Southwest has collapsed its entire structure into the All Progressives Congress (APC). Southwest LP chairman Omotosho Banji led the party leadership to collapse its structure in Akure, the capital of Ondo State. Other leaders of LP that defected were Omomi Oloshola, Ondo Secretary of LP, Shola Alabi, amongst others. Still in politics, the People's Democratic Party Presidential Campaign Council has announced the cancellation of the rally of its candidate Atiku Abubakar in Port Harcourt. The presidential campaign planned early this week would no longer hold. The PDP PCC chairman in Rivers State, Senator Lim Meba, disclosed, citing insecurity. Senator Meba stated that the expected victory woman, the Peter Obi, today met with Are Onani Kafo of Yoruba land, Iba Gani Adams, in Lagos. The former Anambra governor presented his blueprint to the traditional leader at his residence in Omole Phase 2. Obi, who confirmed he has embraced restructuring, said his plans on the economy, tourism, security, and agriculture, among others, remain pivotal to pulling the nation out, with a prominent focus on the unity of Nigeria as well as a robust economy. The front-runner highlighted the economic potentials of the northern and southern regions, noting that his visit to Adams was part of the ongoing consultations. On security matters now, where the military has assured Nigerians that the 2023 elections would hold peacefully in the southeast state and every other part of the nation in spite of threats by criminal elements. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, gave the assurance in Abuja at the 25th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's scorecard series. The edition featured the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, who presented the scorecard of his ministry. Responding to a question on the threat by the Simon Ekpa-led faction of the outlawed indigenous people of Biafra (IPOB) to stop this year's general elections in the southeast state, Irabo said no person or group could stop the polls. Away from that, the Department of State Services has invited a spokesperson for the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council, Femi Fani-Kayode, over allegations of a coup plot ahead of the February election. Fani-Kayode, former minister under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration, confirmed the invitation in a statement today, adding that the invitation will be honored. According to reports, Fani-Kayode in a tweet alleged some top army personnel in a meeting with some politicians, including the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, in a bid to coup and establish a new and unconstitutional order. The Intelligence Response Team, Force Intelligence Bureau, Garki Abuja, has detained the presiding pastor of House of the Rock Abuja chapter, Uche Ayibe, for carrying an AK-47 on the pulpit. Reports say the police have commenced an investigation on Ayibe after a video of him carrying an AK-47 surfaced in social media. Meanwhile, one Inspector Musa Audu handed him his rifle to Ayibe. The Commissioner of Police, Federal Capital Territory Command, Sadiq Abubakar, made a recommendation to the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba, to dismiss the police officer, Inspector Audu. Still to come in the news. India's inflation rate rises more than expected to 6.5%. To stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned, and now to the rest of the news. In Africa, Gabon President Ali Bongo has today announced that all political terms in office in Gabon will now last 5 years. Until now, presidents officially served 7-year terms and senators served 6-year terms. But Bongo, who has led the country since his father's death in 2009, has not made any statements regarding a new limit on the number of terms a president can serve. President Bongo's announcements came during talks between the government and opposition, which were called to discuss election matters ahead of polls expected later this year. Still in Africa, a Ugandan High Court has granted bail to 2 members of parliament arrested in 2021 in connection to a spate of killings using machetes in the central districts of Luwengo and Masaka. The members of parliament Mohamed Serinya and Elan Senyana are linked to the opposition National Unity Platform led by Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobby Wine. The 2 members of parliament appeared before the High Court in Masaka via video call from Kigo Prison in Kampala, where they are on remand. According to reports, each man had been ordered to pay a cash bail of 20 million Ugandan shillings and that their respective guarantors must deposit non-cash bail of $13,500. The two members of parliament were also asked to deposit their passports in court and report every month. Meanwhile, a journalist given a controversial 2-month jail term has been freed by sympathetic prison officers. According to a message shared on his Twitter page and by the Somali Journalist Syndicate (SJS), Abdel Mumin was arrested in Somalia in October following a government crackdown on information about the militant group Al-Shabaab. Along with 4 other media advocacy groups, the SJS had called the university faced persecution for defending freedom of expression. In western city of Mwanza, the vessel, which the government says is the biggest in the Great Lakes region, is expected to improve transport between the East African countries that share the lake. According to reports, the ship has the capacity to carry 1,200 people and 400 tons of cargo and 20 vehicles. Speaking at the event to land the ship ashore, Tanzania's Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works and Transport, Gabriel Migire, said the building of the ship was an initiative to help improve trade between the regions bordering the lake. Komazi municipality displaced. According to reports, it comes as the number of people missing and those believed to have been swept away by the floods in the municipality rose to 6. On the foreign scene, the death toll from Turkey and Syria earthquake has climbed above 35,000, with search and rescue teams starting to wind Turkey and 3,581 in Syria from the 7.8 magnitude tremor, bringing the confirmed deaths total to 35,224. Meanwhile, the United Nations Relief Chief Martin Griffiths had reportedly said that they expected the number to double or more as chances of finding survivors fade with every passing day. Still on the foreign scene, a former UK policeman jailed for life for the kidnap, rape and murder of London woman Sarah Everard pleaded guilty today to 3 counts of indecent exposure. Wayne Cousins admitted to the incident between November 2020 and February 2021, a month before he falsely arrested Everard, 33, as she walked home. The counts of indecent exposure, which took place in Woodland and a McDonald's restaurant in Kent, southeast England, emerged after his conviction. Reports say they form part of an official inquiry that is looking into whether he could have been stopped before he killed Everard, had prior allegations been more fully investigated. In the meantime, Israel granted retroactive authorization to 9 Jewish settler outposts in the occupied West Bank and announced mass construction to publish the decision by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet, with 2 pro-settler politicians whose inclusion in the coalition he built after a November 1 election had already signaled a hard right tack. Most world powers consider the settlements illegal for taking up land where the Palestinians seek statehood. According to the Peace New watchdog group, Israel has disputed this since capturing the West Bank in a 1967 war. It has established 132 settlements. Meanwhile, a statement from Netanyahu's office also said a planning committee would convene in the coming days to approve new settlement homes. Elsewhere, U.S. officials say another unidentified object was shot down over the Great Lakes region at the direction of President Joe Biden. The official said that the object, which was flying at 20,000 feet over Michigan's Upper Peninsula, was shot down and neutralized by a U.S. F-16 fighter jet near Lake Huron. Meanwhile, the North American Aerospace Defense Command felt that taking guns. In the meantime, China accused the United States today of flying balloons over its territory, hitting back against Washington's claims that Beijing has been sending alert surveillance aircraft. But the White House has denied the accusations. Relations between the United States and China have further soared after Washington shut down an alleged Chinese espionage device in early February, which Beijing has insisted was for civilian purposes. A number of other such devices have since been shut down over the US and Canada, though Beijing has only admitted that the first was one of its own. Meanwhile, over the weekend, Chinese state-affiliated media reported that an unidentified flying object had been spotted off the country's east coast and that the military was preparing to shoot it down. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia will send its first ever woman astronaut, Reina Banawi, on a space mission later this year in the latest development to overhaul the kingdom's ultra-conservative image. Banawi will join fellow Saudi male astronaut Ali Al-Khani on a mission to the International Space Station ISS during the second quarter of 2023. According to reports, the astronauts will join the crew of the Ax-2 space mission and that the space flights will launch from the USA. Meanwhile, the oil-rich nation will be following in the path of the neighboring United Arab Emirates, which became the first Arab country to send one of its citizens into space in 2019. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market reports. Here is Blyden Ukem.
Good evening. Welcome to Business News. My name is Blyden Ukem. We begin with India's economic index. Inflation rate rises more than expected. The annual consumer inflation in India accelerated to 6.52% in January, the highest in 3 months, and above forecast of 5.9%, moving back to above the Reserve Bank of India's target of 2 to 6%. Food price in Nigeria. Sterling Bank plc has appointed Mr. Mani Singhal as a non-executive director of the bank. This was contained in the corporate disclosure issued by the bank to Nigerian Exchange Limited. According to the statement signed by the company's secretary and chief legal counsel, Temitayo Adekoge, the appointment was signal to the approval of the Central Bank of Nigeria. It is noted that Singhal has over 26 years of experience in the financial service industry. He is currently General Manager Operations, International Banking Group, IBG, State Bank of India, SBI, where he oversees the operations and information systems, human relations, and expansion planning and strategy. Data has shown that 7 Nigerian banks in 12 months committed over 173.99 billion naira on the salaries and wages of their staff. This amount is 19.21% or 28.05 billion naira higher than the 145.95 billion naira that the bank spent on personnel in 2021. The figure was obtained from the full-year results of the banks ending December 31st, 2022 submitted to the Nigerian Exchange. The banks surveyed include Stanbic IBTC, First City Monument Bank FCMB, Fidelity Bank PLC, Sterling Bank, Wema Bank, Unity Bank, and Jazz Bank. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. Today is the first trading day of the week, and a total of 140.84 million shares in 3,553 deals, corresponding to a market value of 3.158 billion naira were traded. Compared with the previous trading day of Friday, February 10th, today's data shows a 20% decline in volume and 41% decline in turnover. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 29.6 trillion naira, and the benchmark All-Share Index inched up 37.37 basis points, a 0.07% gain to close at 54,364.67 points. In aggregate, 112 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 17 gainers and 9 losers. Cornell led the gainers with 9.98% share price appreciation, closing at 35.25, 35 naira 25 kobo per share. Computer Warehouse Group came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 9.18% at 89 kobo per share. United Bank for Africa recorded the highest volume of 28.6 million traded shares. This is all on business news. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, Blyden and Kev. Still to come in the news. Felix open to permanent Chelsea transfer in summer. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Thanks for staying tuned. And now to the concluding part of the news. In health, alarmed by a large number of residents hooked on illegal drugs, authorities in Adamawa State have taken an anti-drug campaign to motor parks and other critical places. A co-chairman of the Adamawa State Drug Control Committee, ASDCC, Femi Abwalu, who is also the state commander of the Nigeria Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, led the committee today to the Jabutu Park in Yola North local government area, explaining that people in the transport sector are critical to drug control. He said 370,000 Adamawa people were found to be hooked on illicit drugs in 2018, but that by now the number must have risen to about 400,000. According to him, Adamawa rates the third worst drug consumption state in the north and shares 17% of the national drug use burden, a situation which he said needed to be halted. Still in health, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control and the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Group of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria have pledged to work together to attain the World Health Organization Maturity Level 4 ML4 status. The agency said achieving the WHO ML4 will launch the country into the League of Vaccines and active pharmaceutical ingredients producers in the world. The continuing to adhere strictly to the best global practices in regulatory responsibility. Meanwhile, the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, Ifedayo Adetifa, has said that the agency had an emergency meeting in Jigawa State over the meningitis outbreak in the state. Adetifa said the Emergency Operations Center meeting reviewed the response, identified challenges, and preferred solutions to the outbreak. The Director General disclosed this in a series of tweets via his Twitter handle. Meanwhile, Adetifa said the NCDC had designated and begun establishment of zonal reference laboratories across the 6 geopolitical zones, which were at various stages of completion as part of taking forward lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on Nigeria. In sports, Portugal international João Felix has suggested he is open to permanent move to Chelsea this summer. Felix has made only one appearance for Chelsea thus far after being sent off on his debut against Fulham last month, while January saw a number of big names at Fort Bridge at the end of the season, perhaps opening up a permanent space in the squad. Atletico are also thought to be keen to move Felix £250,000 per week wages off their books. Still in sports, Poland's IGA Swiatek continue to dominate the WTA rankings today, with the only notable change being the exit of Estonia's Anett Kontaveit from the top 20. A distant second behind Swiatek was the Belarusian Aryna Sabalenka, who won the Australian Open. Tunisian Ons Jabeur remained third. Kontaveit, who won the St. Petersburg tournament a year ago but lost in the round of 16 in Abu Dhabi last week, dropped 9 spots to 27th. Meanwhile, Swiss Belinda Bencic, who saved 3 match points as she won the final in Abu Dhabi, held on to 9th, while the loser Ludmila Samsonova jumped 4 places to 15th. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Pelicans were hopefully they would be getting star Zion Williamson back shortly after next week's All-Star break, but that will no longer be the case. Pelicans Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations David Griffin said that Williamson suffered a setback during his rehab from a hamstring injury and will miss several weeks after the All-Star game. Williamson, who missed the entire 2021-2022 season with a broken foot, had been sidelined since injuring the hamstring in a loss to the Philadelphia 76ers on January 2nd. According to Griffin, the 22-year-old had been participating in 3-on-3 work as part of his rehab, and his latest setback occurred while on the court. On entertainment, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos today remanded an actress Oluwadarasimi Omoseyin in Correctional Services custody pending the determination of her bail application on a charge of tampering with the Naira note. Omoseyin was brought by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) before Justice Chukwujeku Aneke on a two-count charge. Prosecution counsel S.I. Suleiman asked the court for a trial date and prayed that the defendants be remanded. Still on entertainment, News Irish Defense Minister has condemned the latest installment of Marvel's Black Panther franchise, which depicts French troops caught trying to steal resources belonging to the fictional African kingdom of Wakanda. The scene turns on a group of bound French soldiers being brought into a UN meeting, embarrassing Paris ambassador to World Body, after they were caught on a secret mission to a Wakandan base in Mali. Journalist Jean Bexon, who posted the Black Panther clip, noted that the French mercenaries operating in Mali are a real-life military mission. Had an electrifying and heat-heavy halftime show at Sunday's Super Bowl, but social media went into meltdown when the singer revealed an unexpected special guest. In an interview, the Bajan singer was asked if there would be any surprises during her performance at Arizona State Farm Stadium. She replied that she is thinking of bringing someone, but she is not sure. Naturally, fans assumed she was talking about one of them. Although nobody twigged at the time, she was in fact hinting that she was pregnant with her second child. The singer may have failed to debut any new music during her performance at the Sunday's Super Bowl, but the baby bomb she debuted instead almost broke the internet. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website. So do have a splendid night rest.